You guys are saying there's a Starfield Direct or a Starfield something. I don't know. What is it? A Starfield developer interview. How will smuggling cargo system work? Can we hide it somewhere on the ship and sell it for more currency later? Certain items are considered contraband. You will need to smuggle them past security ships that are in the orbit of major settlements. Emil said there are specific items that are considered contraband, meaning they're pretty much illegal everywhere. And yes, you can hide them using special ship modules you can purchase. So, you know, don't get caught with those harvested organs. Fallout Boy wearing sunglasses emoji. The economy is fixed, but prices of bought and sold goods can change based on the skills you choose. Okay. I know some people were thinking that this was going to be like a universe or galaxy simulated economy with all sorts of crap like that. No. Like the game, again, the game's not magic, and I think that's okay. Trying to do everything means you end up doing most things poorly. So locking the economy, I think, is fine. I skipped the first question. I know, because it's just like, who gives a crap? Oh, I see this one. I thought you were like, you skipped the kid stuff trait. I'm like, who cares about the kid stuff trait? But this one, can we buy houses or property? Thank you for calling this out. I almost skipped this. This is a good one, Walter. Thank you. Can we buy houses or property in main cities? Yup, there's housing in different cities that the player can get. Some you have to purchase and some are rewards for specific quests. And then Emil goes, yep, sure can. You can purchase a dwelling in all major cities in the game. And there's at least one that you get specifically for completing something. You can get places, which is cool. Kind of like in Fallout 4. I mean, that's nothing that scandalous or new, but still cool. Ghost, also, thank you for re-upping your membership, my friend. Thank you. For those of us who have never played a BGS game and will be starting with Starfield, what information should we know that will make the experience more impactful right from the start? How deep should we go into creating our character's backstory before we start the game? Emil, well, we always make our games for fans, both old and new, so you can now jump in without ever having played a Bethesda title before. Yeah, makes sense. We look at it less like playing a game, more about living in the universe we created. So settle in, go in at your own pace. Pretty soon you'll learn all the systems and be adventuring through the settled systems the way you choose. As for going into a character's backstory, that's entirely up to you. I'm all about that headcanon. For example, my latest character is a working schlub named Mitch Dombrowski. That's funny. He's a husky, good-natured space trucker, and while he'll do whatever he needs to defend himself, he'll never shoot first. He's like Han Solo's sweeter, older brother. And yes, there are traits and backgrounds to support that kind of thing. Will, while we do start you off in the same spot, what happened to you before the game starts is totally up to you in your headcanon. There's a trait and background system that will let you, yeah, I mean, we already know this. Just typical role-playing. If you want to role-play heavily, you can do that. If you just don't want to worry about it, you don't have to worry about it. Okay, we read that one. How will will there be a jail system if you commit crimes? Yes, you can elect to go to jail or pay a fine when you're arrested, or even resist arrest and try escape. Okay. Yep, the settled systems is more like Skyrim than Fallout 4's Commonwealth in that regard. Yeah, bunch of criminals. There's civilization, there's government, and there are laws. And in a couple cases, we actually explore the themes of crime and punishment in our futuristic universe. Okay, cool. Jail systems. I do miss that from Skyrim. I thought that was a cool addition that they just dumped for Fallout 4. I get why, like, Fallout 4 is not a great setting to have, like, a big overarching government body that sends you to jail if you misbehave. I understand that. So I think it fits thematically, but I always thought it was cool in Skyrim to be like, to misbehave and then be prompted. You either pay back for your crimes or you're going to jail. You know, I kind of like that. Let's see. Will time pass when not in the game? For example, will my trade routes, outposts, and mining operations continue to produce, or does that only occur while actively playing? Emil, the sim only runs when you're actively playing. No sleeping on the job. Only when actively playing. That makes sense to me. I will say I've played a handful of simulation games. I remember playing, I think it was Thrillville. Do you guys remember Thrillville? No, not Thrillbill. Thrillville. Yeah, this game, dude. I think it was the PS2 I played it on. And yeah, this is it. It's like a theme park simulator. You can build your own theme park and all this. And I remember building out my theme park and then leaving it on overnight to just generate revenue and revenue and revenue so that I could build bigger and crazier things. Because of course the simulation didn't run when you turned it off, but I remember leaving it on overnight to rake in some extra money so that I could build even bigger rides and do crazier stuff. So that takes me back to being a kid. That's just funny. You know, staying up all night wasn't an option. So you just like set the joystick on the controller with a rubber band or a hair tie from your sister or something so that they're just running in place nonstop. Yeah, I remember doing that. Did this in Fable 2. I was a hell of a landlord. Yeah, exactly. I think we've all, if you've played any simulation type games, you've probably done that. Let's be honest. Can you be a double agent in this game? For example, if you join the United Colonies, can you also join the Crimson Fleet and give the United Colonies information? And what factions have that feature if they do? Will all of the playable factions can be completed independently? So it does sound like they're leaning into much more, like this is much closer to Skyrim than Fallout 4, for example. The Crimson Fleet storyline does feature you being an undercover agent inside the fleet on behalf of the UC SysDef, a specific military branch of the United Colonies. But whether you betray the fleet or UC SysDef is a choice you will get to make. That's exactly what you can do. Infiltrate the Crimson Fleet. It's specific to that quest line. In the studio, I have been half jokingly accused of referencing movies that some folks have never seen because I'm old. So with this particular plotline, the inspiration was very much the movie Donnie Brasco, which is the true story of an FBI agent who infiltrates the mafia. How far will you go? Interesting. I mean, that's cool. Depending on traits selected during character creation, will it be possible to play through the game in a pacifist mode, i.e. without killing anyone or even potentially anything? I've done Jesus playthroughs, or like Gandhi playthroughs where you just go through and you don't sleep with anyone, you don't like kill anyone. It's honestly pretty miserable. I don't recommend anybody do it. It's like pretty terrible as far as playing a game and actually having fun. But I like to do it because it tests whether or not this game actually allows you to role play like with full freedom, which in the case of like Fallout New Vegas, you can. I think you can get all the way to the end of the game without killing anybody. Fallout 3, you can't. I think you have to kill people in Fallout 3. And Fallout 4, I mean, you have to kill many, many, many people. So it's pretty rare that this type of thing is supported, but let's see. I can't guarantee every mission can be completed in pacifist mode, but we do have a couple of systems that will help. One system is our speech challenge game where you persuade someone to do something like not fight you. Okay. No, it's just because they're having multiple teams develop quests, unless it comes from on high. Sounds like I'm referencing God, but I mean, I'm specifically referencing Todd Howard, or God Howard as we know him. For him, like, unless he said to every quest designer at the studio, make sure it allows for a pacifist playthrough. There has to be an option for not killing anyone. Unless he clearly states that, I would guess that there's a handful of these that don't support pacifist runs, just because it's going to be such a niche thing. Emil, so we talked about this very early on in pre-production, whether or not we would fully support non-lethal playthroughs. We realized that for various reasons that wasn't totally feasible. Now, that being said, there are some good non-lethal options, whether through dialogue or by using non-lethal weapon. Those can be used in certain situations. Honestly, a lot of situations, though, I couldn't comfortably say you can complete the entire game without killing anyone whatsoever. The settled systems is mostly civilized, but it can be a dangerous place if you're going off the beaten path, and you're absolutely going off the beaten path. Rocket ship emoji. Makes sense. I mean, again, like, I don't consider this to be that damning or problematic. Like, most games, most RPGs nowadays, you have to be violent to get through. Like, you just do. I don't know. I don't think you can even do a pacifist run of something like Baldur's Gate 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure in the first hour or two, you're going to have to do something. I don't think you can just like float through and let everybody else kill everything for you. Either way, like, again, it's such a niche thing. So few people are going to be playing in pacifist modes. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. And even somebody like me that will experiment with it and try it, I'm doing it in addition to a regular run. So again, it's just not that big of a deal. I don't think this is, a problem, frankly. I wouldn't be worried about this. What are the beliefs, basic history of religions we can join? Okay, so this one, existing IRL religions are part of the Starfield universe with folks of all religions and denominations out there, but we don't really focus on them. Instead, we highlight 3 new ones specific to the game. Interesting. So you could find like Mormons, maybe. I would love to know what spacefaring Mormons are like. That could be interesting. You know, and do they actually reference it in the game? That would be funny. Let's see. World-renowned GeoHound. What I've gotten from all the revealed information to date is that Starfield literally does nothing new aside from lots of land. It's Fallout in space with No Man's Sky tech. To me, it seems like most of the stuff they're describing is much more Skyrim in space with new, like, No Man's Sky tech. I mean, I wouldn't say like they're doing anything that crazy novel. It just sounds like a standard big BGS game in space, which again is not a bad thing. Like that's not an insult at all. It's just that seems to be what it is. But in terms of core mechanics and stuff, much more similar to Skyrim than Fallout 4 for sure. Which again I think is very good because I think Fallout 4 stripped out way too much stuff for seemingly no benefit. Here they go into the different religions. I'm not going to read through that because it's kind of spoilery, so I'm just not going to touch on that. How many companions total will we be able to recruit? There are over 20 named characters who can join your crew. 4 of them are from the Constellation and have the most story and interaction with the player, but all of the named characters have their own backgrounds and you can follow you around and carry your stuff. Okay, so 20. Over 20 total. Probably means 21, let's be honest. It's like when a car salesman or something says, yeah, it has under 242,000 miles. It's like, so it has 241,000 miles. Is that what you're saying? You know, like, let's be honest. It's all in how you phrase it, but that's still fine. That's a lot of companions. I'll give them that. That's a lot. We really focus on members of the Constellation. When we first began pre-production on Starfield, we looked back at previous games and realized how popular and effective the companions were. They were a big priority for us, and we really wanted to tie them directly to the main quest. There are some really big moments with them specifically. I should also mention that our companion voice cast is amazing. We haven't realized the list or released the list yet, but you can be sure there are a lot of talented actors bringing those characters to life. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they got some good voices. And I think companions are really important for games like this because they give you somebody to bounce ideas off of and to interact with while you explore. So it's not just a big lonely mission. So I think companions are going to be an important piece of this. When we assign crew members to work at outposts, do we have to pay them salaries? I didn't know Linus was in this game. Oh, wow. We'll talk about that in a bit, guys. Okay. I haven't really dug into it. I just know the meme right now is that Linus has gotten a little full of himself a little bit, but we'll touch on that. You will just pay them once. We actually experimented with paying them regular salaries, but ultimately decided to have just one cost up front. There's a lot to do in Starfield, and we wanted to minimize what the player had to constantly keep track of. I can understand that. One-time payment that you can use the speech challenge game to negotiate over some traits also affect the cost. Okay, I'm fine with that. I mean, it's, again, this isn't a hardcore simulation game. I like having budgets and things that scale in games, but I'm also kind of a masochist when it comes to simulation games. So I understand that maybe they just wanted to streamline it. Will our companions be able to level up their perks? Will their perks stack with ours? All crews start with a set of perks at specific ranks. So you might meet a character that's especially good at rifles and you hire them to watch your back, or you might meet an astrodynamics expert that will increase your grab jump range when assigned to your ship. They don't level up, but they come at different ranks depending on the companion. Well, we call them skills in Starfield, and they do stack with yours when relevant. Some are there for flavor to highlight the companions' backgrounds and interest, but you'll really feel the benefit of the ship and combat related ones. Getting a boost to your shields or seeing your companion laying down fire with a weapon they're proficient in are really sweet, or are pretty sweet moments. Okay. So they have abilities that stack. If this game ends up with an 80 to 85 on Metacritic, would you say that that's a disappointment for Bethesda? I don't know what they're expecting to get. I would freaking love to know what they're bracing for or what they expect it to be like. So I'd be interested in that. As for like me, I'm expecting it to be in the 80s. I expect it to be like high 80s, probably mid to high 80s, somewhere between 85 and 89. That's where I'm banking. You know, if I was a betting man, that's where I'd bet it lands. Because I expect it to be a competent game. I expect it to be pretty compelling. I don't expect it to be that magical. I don't expect it to be a 500-hour game that you just never stop playing. I fully expect that after about 40, 50 hours, you've probably seen a lot of what the game has to offer, if not most of it, and things have started to get repetitive. That's what I'm expecting. So for me, if they get an 85, I'll be like, yeah, it's kind of where I thought it would be. But you better believe there's going to be a lot of hardcore fanboys that are going to be smoking some mad copium to try and justify that, because they're under the impression that this is going to be like the greatest game of all time. And for those types, I think they're in for a rude awakening, because Bethesda, outside of Skyrim, they've released some very successful games, but they don't actually review as well as people think they do. People remember the games much more fondly. Maybe that's because of mod support. Maybe that's just because of the nostalgia bias. I don't know. But when you look at the track record for Bethesda games, they don't actually have the Rockstar track record of just hitting it out of the park every single time, which is just interesting to me. What are your favorite parts of the game? Shipping it! But seriously, folks, because of my position, my experience is a little different than yours. I won't speak for Will, but personally, I've seen every questline, every city, every major piece of content in the game at every stage of development. So my answer is colored by that. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where they're probably just ready to move on, and they're kind of sick of it at this point. Honestly, like, think of that you've been working on something for 5 years. You're probably kind of sick of it. Even if it's really awesome, even if it's great, you're probably ready to just move on. For me, the real pleasure is seeing how they've evolved into the versions they are today, the versions everyone here will play. I have a real soft spot for Neon. Getting that city nailed down took a lot of work by a lot of different people, and the result is really the cyberpunk settlement I always hoped it would be. I also love all the quest lines. I think they're the best we've ever done. The designers on this project totally killed it. And then Will said, I love finding content that I haven't seen yet or forgot about. Our games are so big that no one person is likely to have seen it all, even after all our passes and levels of review. Our quests really evolve under development, and it's great to see how everyone adds to them. Designers, animators, voice actors, lighting, everything. Makes sense, yeah. But I would guess they're just ready to move on to the next big thing, because after this, they get to move on to Elder Scrolls. And you better believe after working on Fallout and then moving into this futuristic thing, a lot of them are pretty excited to do something more medieval and fantasy. I bet they're just thrilled to be able to move on to the next thing. I mean, I'm sure they're going to have some small teams working on DLC and everything, but, you know, they're going to shift into that. What are some of your favorite small details in Starfield that add to the immersion? Emil, I think what I really love is that although humans are living in space and our aesthetic is very much NASA punk, this is a very lived-in universe, and you can see it everywhere. You know, everyone loves the sandwiches, but it's the books that are lying around, the notes on the bulletin boards, the environmental storytelling that our level designers and world artists are so good at. So I'm a slow typer and somewhat typo obsessed. Okay. I love the work from our voice actors too, and the music and sound effects and clothes. That's funny. I look really closely at all our outfits. You can see seams, materials, especially on the spacesuits. Constellation members have patches on their spacesuits, and they're tied to what skills they have. That's cool. We also love buttons. There's a lot of buttons. We do love our buttons. Oh, I do want to mention this. If you haven't heard about it, Adam Savage and the team are building a filming model of the Frontier, and that ship, man, and all the ships, the level of detail is insane. Yeah, Adam Savage is doing that. That's cool. And the history of the mechs, good one. So we showed this a bit in our animated shorts. The mechs are leftovers from the Colony Wars. Note it's Colony War and not Colony Wars singular. Okay. Both sides, Colony, United Colonies, and the Freestar Collective had mechs, but the Freestar Collective really mastered them. The United Colonies had mechs too, but they also relied on the controlled alien beasts from their Xeno Warfare division. Both of those were outlawed in the armistice that ended the Colony War. I'm not saying there's an old mech battleground in the game. I'm typing it, winky face emoji. Interesting. Maybe that's on one of the empty planets. There's just like a bunch of destroyed mechs and stuff. Honestly, I'm surprised there's not more questions here. I mean, it's a good number of questions, but I guess it just moves fast when you're having fun. And I guess some people were asking for it. I'll read the kid thing. I'll read it. Yes, Joraptor is coming in about an hour, just so everybody knows. In about an hour, he will be joining us. If we get the kid stuff traits, okay, I can't read. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. I'm having a stroke. Maybe I do need more sleep. If we get the kid stuff trait, will our parents be generated based on what our characters look like, or are there standard parents put in place? What benefits might there be? Our programmers, on our new face tech, we're excited to make a function that could try to match your custom face and then create the two parents. They said this with Fallout 4, though. You remember with Fallout 4, they said they would merge the parents' faces to create Sean's face. This was like a well-known thing with Fallout 4, so I don't think this is new. So they're based on what your character looks like, although the specific math involved is a bit beyond me. We had similar tech in our previous games. Yeah, exactly. Yes, totally. We just did this in Fallout 3 with your dad and in Fallout 4 with your son. In Starfield, if you take that kid stuff trait, your parents are based off you. No spoilers, but I think our fans really appreciate the actors who got to play those roles, and they just get so into it. It's awesome. Oh, and yeah, you can get stuff. Okay. Whatever that means. I mean, they don't really say anything that novel or crazy that I didn't see coming, honestly. So there's nothing that shocking in that interview. It just sounds like this is going to be much closer to Skyrim than it is to Fallout 4, which I think is great. He took my thing.